Are you ready to rumble? Oh, wrong one. Wake
Wrong
up
one.
and deliver.
It's like, oh, I was moonlighting over the weekend. Sorry, guys.
I had another gig going on, and I was doing something else.
Oh my God. Do you remember though when we were younger and like those first like it was when it was WWF? Yeah, WWF. And like you actually believed it was like so real. It was this, and like they just made such a show. I still remember watching one of these like wild SummerSlam events with like Hogan and Savage and everything, and it was like all outdoors. It was just nuts. Anyways, there you go. Dating myself a little bit.
Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, shaking the ropes and stuff like that.
Anyways, welcome to another Wake Up. Good morning, everybody. As always, joining John and myself, Matthew, for another Wake Up and Deliver, Season 3, Episode 6. I apologize for last week. It was on me. I had a few things that I could not miss, and I had to skip on this. I gave John last minute notice, and we just had to skip it. So I apologize. It's on me, but we're back. We're back, and we're ready to go. And we're ready for some reactions, and there's lots of them. There's lots of reactions going around right now because, I mean, it's logistics and it's the world we live in today.
And chaos and tariffs and disruptions and all kinds of.
I mean, the list is so long, we're just numb to it. It's like, yeah, no, Doc. I don't feel it anymore.
Yeah. There's so many crazy things going on right now. Oh, here we go. Okay.
What's up?
Missiles fly above cargo ships. In the Strait of Hormuz, thousands of vessels are at a standstill. 20,000 sailors from all across the world find themselves at the heart of this conflict. Among them is this Greek engineer.
Fighter planes.
On social media, he shares his day-to-day life, punctuated by alarms and anxiety over a situation with no apparent end.
We must ration our consumption of water, of food, and of petrol. We do not know how long this situation will last.
Amid the chaos, messages of peace are occasionally transmitted through music by neighbouring vessels. Among these ships, 5 are French. The main ship owner has said the crews on board have enough supplies for 15 days. In total, there are between 50 to 100 French sailors aboard around 50 ships. According to the International Maritime Organization, it's impossible to know when the situation might end.
5 ports have been affected, so ships are not in a position right now to be able to carry out crew change, let alone disembark them to repatriate.
The area is being bombarded with missiles, and incidents of ships being struck are multiplying, as this oil tanker was a few days ago. Around 10 ships are believed to have been hit by projectiles, and 2 deaths have been officially reported. In just a few days, traffic in the Strait of Hormuz has come to a standstill. As these radar images show, only about 10 boats have passed through since the start of the week.
The ships are no longer really covered by insurance. That's what makes this unique. We have gone from a blockage due to Iranian threats to such a high insurance risk that maritime transport is ultimately halted.
Donald Trump has pledged $20 billion to try to revive insurance and unblock maritime trade in the Strait of Hormuz.
That's crazy.
That's wild, eh? Like stuff that like nobody thinks about. And you know, like the funny thing is like all of these disruptions, right? I think we talked about like this kind of concept a couple of weeks ago for everybody, but it's like it's just a ripple effect. It's like, you know, a domino is probably better to think about. It's like, you know, the one thing to the next about how like, you know, well, okay, so sure there's a slowdown. Like sure everything on those, you know, boats is going to be held up, but now you've got like new loading that's not happening, and because you're not having new loading not happening, you know, you've got manufacturing that's going to start to be like, well, wait, I can't make this and maybe not put it anywhere, because the other thing is you won't get customers who are going to want to pay for their shipments if they're not moving, right, and pay for stuff that's sitting for God knows how long. And then let's just, you know, just to cap all that off, like, you know, a little cherry on top, would you want to get on one of those boats and work it right now if they're being hit by missiles? Probably not.
And that's the immediate effect, and that's a great point that you're pointing out, John. But let's think about the downstream effect. Diesel's already up 20%, and everything rides on a diesel truck in North America. It's up 20% on an unexpected cost to shippers, carriers. That's going to be all put downstream. And not only that, farming season, we're about to start planting all across North America. Farmers use diesel, you know, and that price is...
Oh, yeah. There was a bunch of people that were like, just wait for the incoming food hikes coming. Like, you know what I mean? point.
which are already high, which are already super
which are already
inflated.
Yeah.
It's absolutely nuts. So that situation to be said is unprecedented to a point where it's very chaotic and causing a lot of issues. I don't think we see the end in sight anytime soon. That's for sure. Especially after today they announced their new elected supreme leader, and it's the son of the former leader. So
I saw the news. We have to keep informed, guys. For you, we watch the news. Like, check.
we're there. We're watching the price. We're watching everything, right?
It's like we are the news. No, I'm just joking.
But I'm gonna cut John's thunder here because we saw his reaction. He wanted to talk about the benefits of self-driving mechanisms in warehousing and AI and all that aspect of it. But before he starts, I remind you, they're stuck in traffic in a parking lot.
Was that all the Waymos?
Yep. At 4 a.m, people are going around smashing these things.
Yeah, and then they all start reacting to each other. Yeah, no, you know what? It's funny because it's like you start with something ultra serious and just like wildly important. You're talking about what's going on in the Middle East, or for any of these, not just the Middle East. Honestly, the destabilization in multiple parts of the world all over, right? I mean, you've got the Middle East right now. Obviously, you've got Ukraine and Russia that's just continuing and is a tragic situation over there. India
Absolutely.
and Pakistan had been fighting each other. Now you've got
Afghanistan
people
and Pakistan.
Was it? Oh, sorry. What did I say? India.
You
But
said
yeah,
India.
sorry.
It's
Yes.
Afghanistan.
Yeah, my mistake there. And then a lot of people are starting to say, well, with everything preoccupied, great time for China and Taiwan, like to start doing all kinds of other types of things. I mean, there's so much uncertainty in the world. And then on the flip side, you've got all of this other type of service and unimportant change, but I mean still change that's having a major impact. Like to put just ahead of talking about drones and autonomous things and whatever in any context, here we are again. Late last week, the news ending that Oracle is looking to lay off 30,000 people to support the costs of their AI data center and infrastructure build out. Essentially, to pay for it.
But it's all connected because
It
is energy supported. You need all that energy, whether it comes from whatever resources. There's constant need for all this energy to be coming in, and the biggest exports from the Middle East is energy, right? In one shape or another. So it's going to affect that progress as the cost goes up. And at what point will the cost of energy be too high to continue the AI advancement, and will we be able to reach AGI? What was it? AGI? What was it? What's
Autonomous General Intelligence, AGI.
Yeah, AGI. Like at a certain point, where's the energy output too costly that doesn't make sense, and we're going to just use them for and to the point I want to make out that before the segment started, me and John were talking about all the cool things you can do with AI right now. You can build your own software, you can do all these different things, you can do your own add-ons, all the SaaS products that you've always wanted to get but they were too expensive to get. You can literally go out and build them now yourself.
Like I was saying to Matt, and I'll put this just as a ultra real world example. I got a buddy that's got a bunch of footage that they're using, and they needed to do thermal processing on it, and they couldn't find really the software that they wanted to that fit the Mac ecosystem. Like there was lots of things available, but they're sort of Windows based. That they're not a Windows shop, so to speak. So it's like instead of hunting it, instead of looking for cloud providers, instead of this and that, it's like, is it really that impossible to build yourself if you know exactly what you need it to do? Because again, I think there's a difference between building widespread and large potential scale software that could be used by anybody versus being like, I have a specific problem that I need an answer to. I think those are two very different design approaches. And in the past, I have a specific problem was not really economically viable.
Correct.
But now it is, and that's super interesting when you think about business at any level, or any product or service that you're really thinking about.
It's an interesting time because the spread between not having the funds have your own software to do what you need to do to be super successful. So you're gonna work your way towards until you have enough capital, which usually takes 3-4 years to have that catapult to get that software. You're now able to skip all those steps and build something right away for yourself to get your business started that you weren't able to do before. If you're a truck driver, figure out a software that helps run your one truck show to help maximize your dollar and put money away, and then have thresholds that you're able to grab your next truck. If you're a warehouse, how to find leads, what you're looking for, where's your cost being lost, be able to analyze all that, which used to cost a lot of money on software, which I'm not saying you don't need that software. I'm just saying that because it's such a small scale, you can get away with a lot more and be far more dynamic and be able to execute at a far more effective level than then level up to get to that better software that you need to get there. Because I still think you need that good software, because it does provide updates and ideas that I don't think you as an individual or me as an individual could ever come up, or don't have the time to constantly be like, what else do I need to update in my software, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a reason why, like software providers end up doing it, right? Like a big piece of it is R&D and innovation, and you know what I mean, trying to continually, find those customer pain points. But I mean, to your point, I think that it's wild though that, with all of the technology that are out there, and like there's tons of stuff out there these days that, like you said, an owner operator that maybe wants to get started out, maybe he's going to have like 5 trucks, let's just say, is going to make a big splash, try to make it, because that's a big splash, guys. Like, you got to buy $1 million in trucks. Like, let's get real. It's going to be a big splash, like for an individual. That you could have some simple stuff like in terms of like, hey, I need to get this website up. I need all the forms working. I need to make sure all of the information is going to the right people. I need to, make sure that I can quickly change things. Like there's really a lot that can be done
Just
now.
a simple read my emails and find me the appropriate lanes that I need, that I'm going to, for me, because I don't have time to read the 600 emails from 700 different brokers. And those are like, I know it seems very small, but that's what usually dispatchers do. And they find those, and then dispatchers can't find it all. But what you can do now is do it through a prompt. You can do it through your WhatsApp. You can do it through a very simple, be like, hey, look through my emails. I'm going to be in Nashville, Tennessee in next week. I'll be there on Tuesday. Let me know who it has that available and notify them that I'm interested as soon as it becomes available. That's big. I can't say how big that is, because you save so much time that it waits for a process to happen and it automatically executes for you that you weren't able to do before.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think, and, we've talked about this a lot about the, it opening up capabilities. And then, I think it feeds. So now if you want to take this a little bit further with everything that's sort of supply chain and logistics oriented, there's a lot of, and to tie into, what Matt shared earlier and clearly the Waymo parking problem, the interesting thing is that you are getting like a large divide in terms of what's happening with the market between, like, let's call it like the haves and the have-nots, or maybe that's not the right way to frame it with this. Maybe it's like the interested versus uninterested, because I don't necessarily think it's completely inaccessible to everyone and anyone. But I definitely think that the largest companies in the world are very, very aware that they can start gobbling up more and, taking more and continuing to amalgamate. And, that I think is going to be probably the most pervasive impact when it comes to supply chain and logistics, especially like the logistics end of it. Because the thing is that, these tools that make you faster, more responsive, like less errors, that allow you to be top of mind, top of feed, top of response, whatever it could be, like all of these things are going to the people who are putting effort into it, right? And the ones that are designing. So it's like you have this group that's designing their future versus people that are like, we'll wait and see what happens. And I think that that's a really scary situation, because here's an example. So what was it, a couple of weeks ago you showed the stupid delivery robot, right?
Yes.
Like that stupid thing, like the coffee or whatever it was.
Yes.
And
the TD commercial from the Super Bowl. Yes.
Just so dumb. And it's funny because here's a really good example of, like, even for myself, like I'm a logistics guy, last mile operator, all of this thing, and I'm like, that's dumb. And almost no one would be able to convince me of it. I know all the arguments. You can talk to me about the cost and this, but I'm telling you, there's some real fundamental issues with this. On the flip side, though, that exact same technology, but just blown up. Where I do think it has a lot of legs, so to speak, is in something like middle mile, right? And you're seeing companies, for example, like Gaddix is a good example of like, a company that's growing a lot in the middle mile space. IKEA China last week just announced that they're moving almost exclusively to autonomous vehicles for their store replenishment and their customer orders, like delivered to store for then customers to pick up. Because people are realizing that the direct-to-consumer piece, especially within autonomous vehicles, is going to have some real challenges for a long time. One, there's all the congestion, there's all the traffic, there's all of the safety and just movement stuff. But the least is that, like, if you're sending an autonomous drone with like IKEA flat packs, like how do you actually get that out? You know what I mean? Like we saw Viho doing this one thing, like with a partnership with a company. It was essentially like a cat type thing, and it just leaned back and packages like fell out of its little holder or whatever. But I mean, that's not really realistic for the vast majority of products, and it's honestly ultra slow, like, which is the main reason why that, like, beyond everything, why that's going to be a huge problem. But when you talk about, I just need to get this thing to store, I need to move all my stuff overnight, I need to never have anyone not showing up, I need to never have a capacity problem, I need to never have something unexpected happen like that. That becomes super interesting because those stores are already invested in to be operating for extended periods of time. There is tons of people. The likelihood of a failed delivery because someone is not home is essentially non-existent. Makes it a much more attractive value proposition.
Yeah, the middle mile, I think, makes a little bit more sense, even, especially if it's like a pin-to-pin situation where there's no backing into a door and whatnot. I think the interesting position, too, would be that middle mile where it's just-in-time automotive, where they, you've heard stories of hot shots that, are paying like $8,000 for a bolt because it's super needed for an airplane to be taken off that's needed at a different airline. You can hot shot it through a drone very quickly, where you wouldn't have those capabilities in a car before. And you have those kind of circumstances come up where it would be a far more effective way of doing it. And especially if you start thinking about, even like Walmart stores, I can predict, you can call me crazy, where you can have these drones dropping things on the top of the warehouse that goes right into the back of the warehouse, and start replenishing that way on things that are super needed at the store that the customer wanted that wasn't available, and they were seeing that they're out of the product, and there's a potential customer there that would be looking to buy that, right?
I mean, for sure, for store fulfillment, but I mean, even something as simple as like taking orders, like essentially, let's call it up to 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and being like, hey, your order is going to be available for pickup at 7:30, 8 a.m. You know what I mean? Because it's moving it to a pickup counter, it's moving it right there, like it's getting it all sorted. Like that's the kind of stuff that is actually going to have real world impact, and the stuff that a lot of the bigger companies know, right? And I think that's why you're going to see a real acceleration in terms of this consolidation of stuff, because that's where it becomes effective. Britton Ladd posted over the weekend about like the nonsense of creating robots that essentially move and act like humans. He's like this is silly. It's like, why would you, if you were really designing a space or if you're really designing a solution, do you truly believe that a human, in our shape and form, let's say, is really the best being, if you think about it, for these tasks?
Most efficient, yeah.
Yeah, like as opposed to a whole bunch of other ways. So, his premise was that, humanoid robots a waste of time, essentially, and it's just more about awareness and building sort of capability and getting entrenched in some way in terms of the mind share of people in business. But I thought that was an interesting take, because in reality, it's like if you were going to start a new warehouse tomorrow and you knew it was going to be all like essentially with robots, and that you could essentially design them any way that you wanted, and you could design the space then to accommodate 6-armed things or wheel, everyone's on wheel, like they're all on wheels, they can move faster, like, you know what I mean? Like, would you actually build it the exact same as you do today?
Well, my question to you then, John, is would you build the warehouse the exact same way today if you had a predictive analysis of an AI knowing they could minimize the amount of time that's needed in the warehouse in the first place, right? So like, I was even thinking about this the other day. What if you had an Amazon delivery and your neighbor's buying something that was a hot item, and then the Amazon delivery just packs up 3 more of that item onto the truck. It's in your neighborhood, and you get a notification be like, hey, this item is hot. you can get it at 15% off right now. It'll be delivered to you in the next 2 hours if you buy it because it's already on the truck on the way to your neighbor's house.
Oh, yeah, but that's already happening. Not here in China. Like China, some of the big outfits in China essentially do that. They have product on the truck that's not sold yet, and then it sells throughout the day because they're so yeah.
That's a fantastic idea.
It's so good, right? Because they kind of just know the rate of sale, they know the density. They're like, the likelihood of me selling it, the probability of me selling it is so high. I do agree with you, though. I think it becomes more interesting when you design your warehouse flow around like, hey, you know, why am I even going to waste time essentially putting it away? Door to door, like truck to truck, almost like, you know, like DC to neighborhood. That I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of flex there.
More cross-talk as it becomes more predictive, as the product, as the AI knows more of what you want and when you want it, to able to order it ahead of time before you deem that you want it. And then, and I wouldn't be surprised if people like Visa, MasterCard start getting into this space because they already have all your data. Like most of the things that everybody purchases in North America is on a Visa or MasterCard. And the amount of consumer data they have of your purchasing.
Yeah, like, I mean, outside of Amex, I mean, what else is there even, like, really?
Well, it depends where,
Cash,
but like, but cash is very limited. You're not going to go on Amazon and buy with cash.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're using, so they already have a lot of that data and your predictive ways of buying. Like they know every week you're going to buy X amount of bananas, X amount of potatoes, X amount of these things. Like eventually it's going to be like, don't go to the grocery store. It's your stuff that you want and you buy every week is already here.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I think that's why, you know, that's why all of these players are trying to come up with their own app, right? Like, so, you know, I think everyone's heard of things like Lovable and Cursor and stuff like that. But now you've got
I haven't. What's Lovable? What's Cursor and Lovable?
Such a liar. It's like those are the two bigger companies that really started this whole concept of like the vibe coding, like, you know, like a development environment that's like all AI, you know, sort of entrenched. But now you've got like, you know, Google, like with Anti-Gravity, you've got OpenAI that's coming up with their own app and stuff like that. Well, I mean, I say app, but it's a broad sense. So it's essentially like they want you to start pushing more of your data through them. And it's 100% for what you're saying. It's because the more entrenched that they can make you, like if you think about like your whole interaction history, essentially with like, let's say you're an OpenAI fan, that's your road you chose. And it knows everything and it's plugged into your schedules. It's plugged into your calendars. It's plugged in, like, that's where the real, like, you know, hey, let me do your groceries. Let me notify so-and-so. Let me let you know that, you know, you become a real, like, let's call it like personal assistant kind of like software. But I mean, that's the type of stuff these guys are having to go towards because the burn rate on this tech is so high. They need it to be into everything. Like everything.
That's why, you know, Google is going to be very high up on that aspect of it, more so than most. And they're quite one. Microsoft, you know, I haven't heard too much from them. Apple with their technology, because they're very integrated within an ecosphere. But then you also have, you know, Facebook that hasn't said too much upon it, and they have a lot of data on you as well in a lot of the conversations. You know, they say they don't monitor WhatsApp, but I'm sure they do. You know,
well,
Facebook, they got in trouble for the glasses I sent.
That's what I was going to say. You saw the glasses.
The peeping Toms, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about it, so like Microsoft's already married in with OpenAI. They use that behind Copilot. And Apple, was maybe 2 weeks ago, released that they're essentially going with Google.
Yeah.
They're not trying to develop their own. They're just buying into Gemini and stuff like that. Which another new feature I saw the other day, I told my daughter about it. Gemini now allows you to generate music. So now music is music is the new thing that you can start doing. I told her about it because I'm like, hey man, and this is like an aside, but it's kind of like the highlight of what Matt and I keep sharing with you guys about how to think about these tools and how to really integrate them into your world. It's not about like them, you know, necessarily replacing people per se, and you know, just buy a software, not a, you know, don't have a team, so to speak, your own choice there. But the idea is more about how do you get your team and how do you get your business to view AI as a complement? Because that thing for my daughter, she loves music, listens to it like crazy, all kinds of stuff. So I'm like, you know, you didn't grow up being a musician and learning instruments and stuff, but it's like, but what if that's no longer the constraint? Like, what if you can say, I want to hear this kind of beat, change it like this, slow it down? Because then you actually start thinking and learning about music in a different way, because the bot will tell you like, oh, well, that's this kind of thing. That's this, that's that. And you inherently get better by engaging with it. And then all of a sudden now you're creating and you're building your own stuff.
It reminds me of the days, I don't know how you were when you were younger, but those books that where you were a kid that you'd open up, be like, hey, choose your own adventure.
Oh, choose your own adventure. Yeah.
And this is what we're entering. And it's going to be the same thing with supply chain. This is how it relates back to the supply chain is people who didn't, methodically understand how to write things, but they were creative in their ideas, how to solve a solution. You can still create that solution now without that middle person and trying to explain them. And then having that solution not being fully what you expected, and having it talked out in a safe environment, right? And it could be something very simple, like, I'm building LTL shipments. I maximize at 45,000 pounds. I want to maximize my shipments. I have all these 75 loads. I want to create something that helps me maximize my revenue based off of this shipment. How do I go about doing that effectively every single time? Right. And it's simple though. And you can put your ideas forward.
And here's my systems, my tools, what I can do, can't do, so to speak. Like, you know what I mean?
These are the skid dimensions. Here's the pictures. This is what it looks like. Can we come up with something? This is what my thoughts are. And you can lead you down that path and create something. Like the other week I was sharing with you, I was working on an RFQ, and I don't know if you looked. Did I share with you? No, I have to share with you.
No, you didn't send it to me.
I created my own RFQ download calculator, and based off how much revenue I could potentially win, what lanes I was bidding on, how it looked into the network, and it inspired me from the idea that when you've shown me before of the map of North America, and it showed me all the points that it was kind of hitting. And it was pretty neat. It was pretty cool. Maybe I can show it without revealing too much. I was thinking about that. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll think about doing it a different way next time.
Yeah, maybe. Or actually just take the same approach, but give it dummy data. And then that way, just as an example, like, you know what I mean? Give it a fake scenario.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's where I think, that the real companies, like whether it's, logistics, any type of operations, or business in general, more and more your success is going to be about the funny enough, the people that you have and how they think, because like individual skill sets, like being technically capable to do something is not going to be necessarily the biggest important thing, because it's like, how many times have you come across someone, for example, that was like a really smart person, especially when this usually comes up more. I've had a lot of experience with this more on the technical side, developers, coders, different types of things that, can take the data, maybe can do some of the analysis, but just have a real disconnect from like the business sense. So you still need these people in your business, because it's like, well, I need to be able to do this, and we'll coach, drive, whatever. But it's like, but what if now, instead of having one super strong business knowledgeable, logistics knowledgeable, operations knowledgeable person, and one, let's call it like a type of support, or business support, or business analyst type person, you can have two super experienced operations, supply chain, logistics people, or whatever, and still get similar outputs, because of the fact that like both of these people know how to think and they know how to engage with some of these new tools. Are you really going to lose, or is the question more about how much further ahead would you maybe end up being?
And I know John and I have been talking a lot about AI and autonomous things, and it's like, where's the supply chain aspect of it? It really emphasizes the need for that being part of your supply chain. We started off maybe 2 years ago, joking around. We even did that first segment with
we asked G.
We asked G, right? Like it started off that, and it was very like rudimentary, like, eventually, and we should do another one on that, right? And it's come such a long way. It does encompass a lot of your world. There's other important things happening in logistics and supply chain all around. You talked about Oracle laying off so many people, 91,000 people unemployed in the United States right now, some of the highest numbers of unemployment in a while. Like, there's a lot of factors of supply chain happening that shows the economy kind of slowing down, but then you still have record numbers on all these companies, because they have trimmed the fat in the last 2 years utilizing this technology to still be able to do what they're doing with less people and higher margin, but less overall revenue as well. And you don't see a lot of that. Well, I don't think yet.
Yeah, exactly. Because, look, at the end of the day, here, what's the real what's the real goal of supply chain? Like if you want to put it at the most basic level, like
From point A to point B, move something.
yeah, it's to move something, but all of that is to essentially deliver on a promise, may have the inventory at the right place at the right time so that someone can use it or buy it. You know what I mean? And you're essentially like that value chain all the way through. So it's like these tools and how you think, and the reason why, you know, Matt and I talk about it so much is because if you really want to have a dramatic difference to your business, if you want to actually have a real fundamental change in terms of how you perform, you have to do things differently. Like, you know, like you're not just going to grind it out doing things exactly as you've always done and then all of a sudden have like these dramatically different results, right? Especially in the face of like more fierce competition, a lot more uncertainty, let's call it, in the market, people tightening up their dollars, everyone sort of, you know, dominating or battling for the dominance of attention. Like, you're just not. So you need to be able to do things that other people aren't. So here's a funny one I saw the other day. I always laugh about this because like people can go on my I'm watching, I know, but I always go, and you can look at my profile. I think it's almost 5 years old now, where I'm talking about like, you know, speed and the real misunderstanding of delivery speed and the speed of execution. And when it comes to like fulfillment for customers, and now it's very regular that you start seeing, we're going to slow down. We're going to slow down, and you can pay cheaper. And when you can pay cheaper, people will select more, and all this. It's not that people are necessarily slowing down, like accepting the slower service just because it's cheaper. It's because even the slow service now has become very consistent, and the uncertainty related to when they'll receive it has almost fallen off a cliff with all of the tracking and access that people have these days. So once the certainty is there, people are definitely going to be like, well, if I don't really need it, why would I pay for it, so to speak, especially with everything else going on.
I think convenience is a big one too. It's just more convenient to get it delivered nowadays.
Okay, but like, again, if you don't ultra need it, like, are you like paying $20 for a delivery if you're like, no, I'll take it in 2 days because I don't care. I just need to know it's coming in 2 days.
Well, because the mentality is, and not to get too off topic, but your mentality switched in the last couple of years. You don't even realize it. Where before, when you decided to buy something, you wanted to go out and buy it right away. Like, you needed it right away. Now it's like, yeah, I've done my research. I'm okay waiting for a few days for this.
Well, and it's because everyone's trying to sell you something all the time anyway.
Yeah, but on that topic, we are over.
We are over time. It goes too fast sometimes.
Maybe we should do an hour special because we missed last week.
Oh my god, that would be funny. No, we can't just do that. Not on a live one. We'd have to let people know ahead of time so they could buckle in.
Grab some popcorn from breakfast popcorn.
Breakfast popcorn. Yeah, like a popcorn omelet. I wonder if you could make that. I wonder if that'd be any good. Anyways,
on that note,
yeah,
we're gonna say goodbye. John has his final goodbye, final words as I click.
I don't have any final goodbye. Just you know, think different. There you go. Knock yourself out.
Enjoy life.
There you go.
On that note, goodbye, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and good morning again. And